can SMS at any time during the show. Type middle space contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Chizit. On Spectrum tonight, Unpacking the Marriage and Divorce Bill. What are the different forms of marriages recognized under this bill? Also, what does this bill say about some cultural practices that some people still cherish? In 2009, the Uganda Reform Commission redrafted the controversial Domestic Relations Bill, making a number of changes, including giving it another name to become the Marriage and Divorce Bill of 2009. This bill is aimed at reforming and consolidating the law regarding relating to marriage, separation and divorce. The bill provides for marriages that will be recognized in Uganda, and at the same time it stipulates which particular people can preside over such marriages and the places gazetted for marriage functions. It also indicates how such marriages can be objected to and the grounds on which such marriages can be dissolved or end up in divorce. It also sets out the minimum age for one to get married and grounds of consent before any solemnization of any marriage. This bill also sets out the rights of each partner at the start of the marriage and at the time of the separation. The bill gives the Minister of Justice the power to issue marriage licenses to any place of worship for the solemnization of marriages and may at any time cancel this license. The proposed law also addresses practices that are deemed to be degrading and inhuman, including marriage gifts, same-sex marriages, cohabiting and polygamy, widow inheritance, among others. So tonight we look at the different forms of marriages recognized by this bill, the rights of the partners, and those practices that the bill abolishes. Our guests tonight, Miss Stella Biwaga, Program Officer at FIDA-Uganda. You're most welcome, Miss Biwaga.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Mr. Stephen Langa, Executive Director of the Family Life Network. You're most welcome, Mr. Langa.
Thank you.
Our third guest is Mrs. Berna Bakidde Chiveru, Legal Officer at the Legal Aid Service Providers Network. You're most welcome, Mrs. Chiveru.
Thank you, Edmond, and good evening to all our listeners.
Mr. Langa, very briefly, can you tell us a little bit about what your organization does? We know what FIDA does. Can you tell us about
Yes, our organization is known as Family Life Network, and it is an organization that is working to bring restoration to families and morals in our nation. So when it comes to marriage, this is something that is very pertinent to us, because we believe that the marriage institution is a very, very important institution in a nation, because the quality of marriages in a nation will determine what happens in that nation.
You've read this bill, is it relevant?
Well, I've read it, although I need to refresh my memory, but I have some concerns and issues with the bill.
All right, we'll hear from the experts this evening before we go home, all of us tonight. Ms. Stella Biwaga, is this a bill that we need at this time, or is it something that we should wait before we have it?
Thank you, Mr. Edmond. I think this bill is long overdue. As you may recall, the Domestic Relations Bill, as previously called, has been in Parliament for over 40 years. So, if the Marriage and Divorce Bill is passed, we shall be very glad. And it seeks to protect the institution of marriage. So it's not a bill that is only meant to provide for the women and leave out the men, but a marriage is comprised of a man and a woman. So the bill seeks to protect the institution or the family institution and the institution of marriage.
Can you give us a rundown of some of the provisions, very briefly? What kind of marriages does it recognize? We know about the Muslim, Mohammedan marriages. We know about the Christian marriage, one man, one woman. Muslims, one man, four wives. We know about the customary marriage, one man, seven wives, et al.
Yes. Now, this law can be used by any person living in Uganda that wishes to celebrate the following marriages: the civil marriage, the Christian marriage, the customary marriage, the Baha'i, and the Hindu marriage. So it seeks to protect all the marriages, all the forms of marriages recognized in Uganda. We are not adding any other marriage that is not recognized in Uganda. This bill is not adding anything that is illegal to the forms of marriage, neither is it creating a new type of marriage. It's only clearly spelling out the requisitions for these marriages, how they are celebrated, and then how they can be dissolved, and then thereafter also the issues that pertain to the marriages, or within the marriages, the rights and responsibilities of the couple who are within these marriages, and how the marriages can be dissolved.
How different is it from the DRB, the Domestic Relations Bill?
Previously, the Domestic Relations Bill was a lump sum of very many laws, including the Marriage and the Divorce Bill. But having failed to go through in Parliament, it was prudent that the Domestic Relations Bill be split out. And specifically the marriage and divorce, the sections pertaining to marriage and divorce was crafted out, and hence the Marriage and Divorce Bill.
All right, Mrs. Chiveru, talk to us about this bill. Why do you talk about divorce instead of counseling these people? They should stay together, raise the children,
well,
and live happily thereafter.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Edmond. Well, basically, why we are talking about divorce, it's we're basing on what is happening in reality. There's so many conflicts that are happening in families, even after trying to reconcile the parties. And I think we've jumped the step. Let's not go into divorce right now, because that is really like the final, totally the final resolution when parties have totally failed to agree. Yes. And it's also after realizing that once they continue living together, we'll end up with a murder suspect and a deceased. So we're looking at divorce not in terms of, oh, I'm not happy today, or you refuse to buy me a car, so I'm leaving. No, we're not looking at that. We're looking at issues where, for example, someone is being adulterous, and then remember we have HIV. You've tried to cancel the couple, and then someone is really being cruel in terms of beating a woman or even beating a man. We're not looking at
some women beat their men.
Yes, that is true. Only that the challenge we have is that we do not have statistics.
Men suffer quietly. They don't talk about it. They
suffer quietly, and I mean you have to give them that opportunity, because I mean it's their ego at stake. So you give them that space. So we're looking at marriage. What is the Family Life Network? We're looking at that institution. We believe in it as FIDA, and we really try to maintain it. However, some women can commit offenses while married, and they do not know that they're actually committing an offense as a wife. Some of them actually even do those things when they do not even know what we expect, what the husband expects from that marriage or from a wife. So it's usually out of ignorance, and you know the law is clear. Ignorance is no excuse. So that's why we're here, to really try and encourage people to know more about the formalities and the types of marriages.
We'll talk about the types of marriages, but let's talk about, I was looking at the bill. One of the issues that it mentions, a prerequisite for divorce, is marital rape. How do you quantify it?
Marital rape. Well, there have been circumstances where women have approached us, and there's a situation where a woman has undergone a C-section, or let's say a cesarean, and because once you're married, you're supposed to fulfill those conjugal rights as a wife. However, a man has not given her that time to heal, the 6 weeks, and even sometimes it depends on the doctor's advice. So the man might also be doing, the husband might be doing it out of ignorance, but he's actually raping his wife. And then there are also situations where she's terminally ill. Maybe she has some kind of infection which she has tried to talk to you about, and a husband thinks, no, I have a right to conjugal rights, which is really not fair. So that's why we're saying, at the end of the day, once a woman says no, whether she's actually, we're looking at a wife, once your spouse says no, then I mean, why do you force yourself? Why do you force your way? It's supposed to be an agreement. It's supposed to be consensual. Yes.
All right. So men should learn the fact in quotes, that when a woman says no, she actually means no. Mr. Langa, this bill is long overdue. Is that something that you agree with?
Well, I know that a lot of work has been done and has been in the pipeline for a long time. But unfortunately, this bill fails to actually accomplish the objective of the Domestic Relations Bill project, which was instituted in 1994. In 1994, it was agreed at that time that this project should be undertaken so that one comprehensive law can actually be made that can bring all the marriages together under one law. As we are talking now, it has failed. So I would say that yes, it is long overdue, but you see, it's better to get a good law. It's better to take time and get a good law than rush and get a bad law in place.
You think this one is being rushed?
Well, in a way, it is being rushed, but also
it was done in 2009.
Well, okay, let me say we are not ready for it.
What do you mean?
Some of the things that are in there are very pertinent and are very have far-fetched implications. And if they are put into practice right now, we are going to see marriages and families disrupted.
Which ones?
2 or 3 things. The first one, there's a huge flaw, first of all, in that this bill splits. It is split. It has everybody else on one side, and the Muslims are left out.
Yes.
So already it has left out Muslims.
Yes.
Why? We need them to be together. We should have one law that actually governs everybody under one roof. But right now, one group is already left out.
Yes.
That's one flaw. The second flaw is that the spirit of this bill is not the kind of spirit that will make marriages work. It's more of a marriage for property, a marriage for, it's like you start already defining how it is going to end.
So like a job?
Yeah, it's like a job, yes, like a contract, which marriage is not. Marriage is a deeper thing, and we shall talk about that later. Thirdly, this bill glorifies or lifts the status of people who are cohabiting.
Yes.
Yes. It kind of makes them, in fact, even says that they should be, there will be people who are, ABCD, like married people. So they are almost equating them to married people, which I think is wrong. That is a gross abuse of the institution of marriage. You cannot equate people who are just, somebody grabs a woman and begins to have children with her, and you equate that to somebody who is married. That is not marriage. Marriage is an honorable thing. Marriage means responsibility. A man chooses to be a man and to show his manhood, and goes to the people on the other side and makes his intentions known, and in honor takes his wife. That is what marriage is.
Well, what's the difference? A man meets a woman somewhere at a restaurant, stealing glances at each other. He decides this one should be my wife, pays the bill, says let's go home tonight, you are my wife from now. What's wrong with that?
That's not marriage. In fact, I was in a meeting the other week, and a man said exactly that. I was giving a talk, and this guy says that, but now you see, I have a woman and I have 3 children, so I am married, and what is it? I say, sir, you are not married. You may think you are married. Having a child with a woman does not mean that you are married.
What's the importance of the ceremony? Talk to us about that very briefly.
It's not the ceremony. The ceremony is just symbolic.
Yes.
But really, it's the spirit. It's the responsibility, taking responsibility. Because as a man, you are taking on this lady, and you are saying, I'm taking you, I'm going to be responsible for you until death do us part.
Yes.
That's a huge undertaking. Rather than this one of, okay, let's go, let's try, if it works out, we go. If it doesn't work out, I don't think that's marriage, and we should not play with life.
Well, he might take her home with good intentions and discover she's not such a good cook after all. She burns the liver and other things. Talk to us, Miss Stella Biwaga, about his concerns.
Thank you, Edmond.
Some women are simply, they can do a good job, but you buy your liver very expensively, you take it home, and she burns it on the stove. Go on.
Thank you, Edmond. I'll respond to Mr. Langa's concerns about the bill seeks to glorify and lift the status of cohabitees. We call them cohabitees.
Yes.
Apparently, this bill does not recognize cohabitees or cohabitation as a form of marriage. Among the forms of marriages, cohabitation is not recognized. However, it seeks to recognize the contribution made by these 2 people who are living together. This is specifically in terms of property acquired or accumulated together. We need to respect and recognize the efforts of these people. We may be cohabiting, and I may be the one who is earning, who is the breadwinner. So should I just walk away because we are not legally married? We are not saying that because I have contributed, I should be a wife, recognized as a wife. No. We are not saying because you have contributed, cohabitation converts to a marriage. No. But we are saying when it comes to property accumulated by these 2 people. If we were giving reference to the land law, it would be as if we are co-owners. who purchased a piece of land. So we're entitled to the equal rights. That is what we're advocating for. Because we have recognized that most of the women in these cohabitation relationships have walked out because their marriages are not recognized. You've been living with this man. It's not a marriage. You've been living with this man. You've contributed. You have accumulated this property. But because when it comes to the dissolution of that relationship, the first question is, were you legally married? Any end of these marriages? No, we are not. So you're not entitled to. So we are seeking for the bill. The bill seeks to recognize the contribution.
So maybe you should be preaching to these people to organize their marriages.
Yes, Mr. Edmond, you're right. But the challenge is there are very many reasons as to why people do not formalize the marriages. Why would someone live with the other for 40 years, 60 years, 70 years? We have had women who have come to our offices.
They need a lesson from me.
We have come to people who have come to our offices at the age of 70, and you have to tell this woman, you are not a widow. She has lived with this man for all these years. Reason being, you start off, then you first of all, you're going to prepare that we are going to formalize this marriage. Before you know it, he's like, let's buy a plot. Joma is selling at 4.5
for 40 years.
That's in the first year. Let's buy a piece of land. You buy. Second year, a baby comes in. Then the school fee starts. Then every time, then the budget. Then the money is never enough. After the piece of land.
Well, a man married his woman. They had one pair of slippers. The man said, "It's my wife. You should be smart. Wear the slipper. I'll go barefoot." They didn't even have rings.
Yes, the challenge is both on the women and the men. What two people discuss behind closed doors is something I don't want to purport to be in the know of.
Maybe you should help them instead of promoting cohabitation. Let them go and solemnize things. They can't go to a mama house.
That is what we are encouraging them. We're telling them you had better formalize these marriages so that you are protected legally. But just in case they are not, are we going to stop people from having relationships? We can't. And by the time most of these people come, all these problems come up. These people have cohabited for 40 years. Because when
so you're clearing the backlog.
Not clearing the backlog, but also clearing the way, paving the way.
Well, but you need to tell them that in future, if you are cohabiting, you're very unsafe.
Yes, they are very unsafe.
Do something about it. If it's the woman who married the man, let the man go and introduce you to his parents.
To a certain extent, but also we believe men do these things intentionally.
Well, talk to the women then.
Maybe Edmond?
Okay, just a minute. There's something I'd like you to get clear for us.
Yes,
You're
please.
saying they develop wealth together. Some women don't work. They think they don't work. They stay at home. The man goes to work. Do you quantify that? Is that a contribution as well? So they should split the money again?
Yes, they should. Non-monetary contribution.
Yes.
I will give an example. If you were to hire a maid at 50,000 per month, and if I were to charge you that amount of money, I would still be working. It's as good as work. Because then why do we hire these house helps? Because we eventually pay them. But imagine this person is working and you are not paying
She's
them.
not paying.
Non-monetary contribution must be recognized.
And she does a lot more than that. She provides emotional support and everything, comfort, security, and so on.
Including the sex.
The conjugation.
Yes.
Prefer to use that word sometimes. Mrs. Chiveru,
yes.
Talk to us. You want to say something, but before that, can you break down for us the forms of marriage?
Okay.
Why are you living out the Muslims?
Okay. Why are we living out the Muslims? By that I'm a Muslim myself.
Oh.
I reverted to Islam.
Is that before you got married or not?
Before I got married.
And your husband
Islam totally it's an agreement between you and God. And
is your husband a Muslim as well?
Yes, he is a Muslim.
So before you married,
before I got married, before we even started dating, dating in quotes, I was a Muslim. I had reverted to Islam. But as Islam is really a relationship, what we try to push for is it's a relationship between you and God. And I think it's really all faiths, all beliefs, all denominations believe that it's really a relationship between you and God.
Granted.
So before you go, that's why there's a ground that before you go to a mosque, you have to accept Islam. Do you believe in its principles? Because
as an individual?
Yes, as an individual. Once you say yes, then that's a contract you've signed between you and God.
Yes.
You know? So at the end of the day, you can't just say, oh, by the way, now, and then you jump back, oh, by the way, I'm a Catholic, so this is what I'm supposed to do. No, that is not right. That's why they say if you decide to date a Muslim and you want to enter into that marriage, you have to become a Muslim.
Yes.
So if you don't believe in its principles, don't go there. And that's why you realize that some Muslims who are cohabiting or living with non-Muslims, they go for the civil marriage, because the civil marriage is really not, it's about,
ask too many
no, it does not. It will ask you whether you are consenting to what are you consenting to the contract you're entering into. Yes. I'll call it a contract, which is not good, because a contract usually has an ending point.
It could be a life contract.
It's a life contract, yes. So are you agreeing to what marriage is about?
Okay, no problem. But why are you leaving out the Muslims?
Now, why we are leaving out the Muslims, it's because of what we believe in. First of all, the principles that govern the marriage, Islamic marriages, is the Quran. And the Quran is clear on the different procedures.
Go on, tell us.
However, for example, you can get married at home. That is what they call a nikah. Or you can even go to the mosque. But what has sometimes I say Islam has made it even more simple, because you can go through a nikah. You will just invite 2 witnesses, as long as they are adults.
That's the marriage at home.
Marriage at home. You invite 2 witnesses one afternoon. You get a sheikh or a mosque leader to come, and you swear a contract. He of course gives the sermon to both of you. Both of you get witnesses. You sign a marriage contract, and that's it. A marriage certificate.
Do you have marriage bans, Diana? Because in the law you have to announce at least 3 times.
Now, for Muslims, we do not have marriage bans.
15 minutes. You meet, you say, let's go home and do it. Call the sheikh.
Of course, that is not right, because even before you enter any contract,
it's not written anywhere, so it might be.
Yes,
you might go home and say, let's go home and marry right now.
But I mean, there's still some conditions you have to fulfill.
What are those?
For example, you have to go for an HIV test.
Yes.
And then, if you're
that in the Quran? Go on.
No, but that is out of practice, because they've realized that these days, of course, people used to jump out of excitement. Oh, I met so-and-so, he's handsome.
She speaks nicely.
He speaks nicely, has a nice accent, deep voice like Edmond's. So you go all through that, and then you get excited. But there's that emotional attachment Mr. Langa was talking about. It's not about, these are just formalities. But at the end of the day, we are questioning the relationship you're entering into with this other human being who has a different background from yours, and you're saying, I want to live with so and so. What if he has some issues? I think you've had, I was sleeping and I saw my husband dancing naked. I think
in the night.
Yes, you watch this on the news, but this has a background which you did not dig up. So that's why there are some issues out of practice. They are not in the Quran. However, the DRB had also recognized Islamic marriages. We call them Islamic marriages. Yeah, but unfortunately, because there were some principles that, for example, registration or bans and all that, because once you put all those restrictions, then definitely someone will say, oh my God, going through that hassle, that bureaucracy. Yeah, so that's why they left it out. And of course, Mr. Langa said it's not yet due, but I believe it is due, because one thing is that previously, for example, the Muslims, we consulted different stakeholders and we broke it down. The DRB used to we used to recognize cohabitees as married after a period.
Now you've changed.
Yes, but now we realize that after consulting with all the religious leaders, that is one thing they agreed on. They said no.
You reduced the rating of cohabitation.
We reduced it
to All right, we have to go for a break. This is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight. Unpacking the marriage and divorce bill. What are the different forms of marriages recognized under this bill? We'll be back after this break. So stay tuned.
Even back when I met George, I noticed something different about him. Maybe it was the way people looked up to him, or maybe it was his willingness to always help. He struggled at the start, and today he is a successful bar owner. Despite his success, George didn't forget where he came from. He built friendships with his patrons and learned from them as much as they learned from him. He used his business acumen to help many others achieve their dreams. The fact is, many people owe their success to him. But George never talks about it. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like George, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special, you've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Is your internet provider turning your world upside down? Broadband Company offers fast and reliable internet solutions. And for the first 100 subscribers this month, we offer zero connection fees. Save up to 400,000. For more information on these offers, call toll-free 0800 222 111.
Broadband Company, more than you expect.
Maria!
Hey, Mom, what are you doing here?
I forgot to spread on the other slice, Maria. Take this.
Hey, Mrs. Makumbi, what are you doing here?
You know, Blue Band helps my child grow. That's why I spread on every slice.
Every slice spread with Blue Band is an opportunity for your child to grow. So mums, spread on every slice. Daily Blue Band, daily growth.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. Unpacking the marriage and divorce bill. What are the different forms of marriages recognized under this bill? What does this bill say about some cultural practices that some people still cherish? Our guests tonight, Miss Stella Biwaga, Program Officer at FIDA-Uganda, that's the Women Lawyers Group, Mr. Stephen Langa, Executive Director of the Family Life Network, and Mrs. Berna Bakidde Chiveru, Legal Officer at the Legal Aid Service Providers Network. You two will be able to contribute to this discussion. I'll read out the numbers when that time comes. Mr. Langa, apart from leaving out the Muslim, this is not a very bad bill after all. Cohabitation has been lowered a little bit.
Well, I just want to respond to that cohabitation matter. Stella said that, well, they don't recognize it, but they are just trying to see that the contribution of both parties is taken care of. Well, what we can say is that that contribution can be taken care of through other laws, like the land law, like contract law, and so on. But bringing this thing to the marriage and divorce bill or to the marriage bill is a wrong place. That is a wrong parking place for that problem. If two people don't want to be responsible enough and they just want to, just decide between the two of them, let them use other laws, other existing laws which are already there.
Yes.
Yes.